Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely everyone. This is the first flagship podcast that we are doing here as the Three Amigos, an incredible trio. My name is Ryan. I am joined here by two incredible people. To my left is Tim, and beside him is his amazing wife, Nancy. Tim, do you want to introduce yourself to the crew for a second?
Hey, my name's Tim Danter, and I am so happy to be here on this show. It is absolutely amazing to do something other than what we do with our other show.
Yes.
Buckle up, and who knows what's going to happen. There's a lot of arguments, a lot of suggestions, a lot of opinions, but that's what good conversation's all about.
And that's the nice thing about this podcast is we're going to kind of do things that we can't normally do on our other channels, our other platforms. So this is going to be that opportunity where we can talk as regular people about real life issues with some fun in there, some quirky things in there all the time. But Nancy, introduce yourself to the crew for the first time.
I am Nancy Danter. I am the wife of the guy on this side up here, and we've been married for just about 31 years coming up, and we have two amazing kids. They're adults, they don't live with us, so we're technically empty nesters, and we love doing projects together, and this project intrigues me because it's sort of an offtake of what our project was for 2021, which was a bit of a challenge to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. So getting together, because we met you, Ryan, in 2021 on doing our first challenge, I think it taught us that we loved keeping engaging conversation going about anything and everything, and so I was really intrigued when you suggested that we look at doing something like this, because it gets, you know, what's funny about the world right now is everybody has an opinion, and they're either overly opinionated about it or you're afraid to express your opinion. Totally. And I want us to get back to a place where we can challenge ourselves to be open-minded to what other people say. And I hope that's what we end up achieving with all of this.
That's the name of the game with this podcast, at least. It's going to be talking about the cold, hard truths, the ugly truths, whatever it is, but the things that people don't want to talk about necessarily. We're going to dive into it. It's not always going to be popular. We come from totally different backgrounds. We'll get into a little bit more of who we are here as we go on, but totally different backgrounds, different generations, literally different parts of the country. So we're offering you guys just a wide range of opinions. We're not always going to agree, but we're friends. So that's what makes these conversations really easy to have, really fun to have. Hopefully you guys get a kick out of it too. But again, I'm jazzed to start this podcast up. I've been sitting on this idea you guys know me. I'm devastatingly opinionated, and I can't necessarily get that across on my other channels sometimes. So this is going to be the absolute perfect gateway.
I thought you were going to say devastatingly handsome.
I'll take it.
I'll
take it. So I know tonight we got some hot topics that we're going to talk about, very relevant topics for both American and Canadian families. It's top of mind right now. But just a little bit more information on kind of maybe who we are and where we kind of started. I know that we were alluding to our other platforms, where we met, when we met kind of thing. We met under funny circumstances. Either Tim or Nancy, do you guys want to maybe take the lead and let them know how we got started together? Because it's been about a year or so since I've met you guys. It's been fun.
Tim?
Nance?
Either you're going to jump in and take it, or I will. You just tell me which way.
You go for it, hon.
So I would say Tim and I started our own little YouTube challenge last year. January 1st was our very first YouTube episode. And I think we were worried about being locked down. Tim wasn't going to be working because his job was one of the ones that was up and down and up and down. And I said, okay, we need a project to keep our minds occupied. And we had just earlier in 2020 had discovered cryptocurrency. And so we started thinking maybe we could do some kind of a challenge where if you had zero money down and you didn't have anything, even with just your own sweat equity, what could you earn extra over and above what you were currently doing within a 1 year period? And we thought we would document ourselves doing this. So I didn't have any idea about really thinking that the YouTube thing could take off. I was just thinking we would use it to document. And so we were buying and selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace and videotaping ourselves in the bathroom, and just having fun commentary. And it was not very long into the challenge where all of a sudden, because YouTube's really good with AI, that all your stuff started coming up, and Ryan had done the same challenge. And I remember saying, watching you on YouTube, I said to Tim, you won't believe it. There's another guy. I think he's doing our same thing. And I said, but I think he's better at this than we are, because look at all the people. Either that or he's got more friends. And so anyways, I said to Tim live on our little channel, you need to reach out to him. You need to reach out to him. And then the next day, I asked him in the morning, did you reach out to Ryan? And so I had to cajole him to reach out to you. But when he did, and you picked up the phone and you took a call with us, and then that was sort of the rest was history. Now you were focusing on the YouTube and building your YouTube platform. We were still clueless on that. I was over here buying and selling things for making $20, going, okay, well, if I make $100, then we have enough to fund our simple account. You, on the other hand, were going down the YouTube path and learning how that all works.
Nancy, I made it such a mission at one point. It was started December 11th, my little YouTube journey. I was down and out, everyone knows what happened in 2020. People were locked down. It was devastating. We know what happened. It's going around. We'll talk about it. Maybe in this episode, maybe in future episodes, who knows? But, we know what happened, right? So I was down and out, down to my last few bucks, started my journey because I didn't have enough courage to ask my parents to borrow rent money at my age. So I started this mission. I actually did not believe that it would have done what it had done. Obviously, I was just looking to make sure I could make enough rent money in time. I did. And that was in 2 weeks. So it blew my mind that it kicked off in 2 weeks. And then, like Nancy says, the rest is history. And we've been rocking and rolling on our channels half the time together, half the time doing our own thing for about better part of a year now. Built community in the thousands that know and love everything that we have to say. So it's about time that the three of us started this epic freaking podcast where we can actually talk about the stuff that we talk about in the after show type of thing in our private life. So this is, to me, again, very interesting, not only how we met and the differences that we can bring to the table here, but the conversations, you'd be surprised. Once you get to know who we are, a little bit about how we feel on things, you'll start noticing certain patterns, and it will be more interesting and engaging to listen to us chat because, again, we come at it from the friendliest angle, but from totally separate areas of that triangle. There's three of us, and we couldn't be any further apart. So it's literally the best opportunity. So I know, Nancy, where I come from, at least on the job history side of things, just so the crew knows. Again, this is a bit of an intro episode, so just so the crew knows there. I've got a bit of history in the trades. Beyond that, I got a bit of history in sales and then sales management. After that, moved myself to YouTube. Tim, maybe let the crew know what you did or what you're doing, because you got a really interesting history, dude.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started out really early, 1987, in driver training. And by 1990, owned 3 franchises of a nationally branded franchise and grew it to be about the 6th largest franchise in the country of Canada. And basically haven't looked back. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've never worked for anyone at all in my life. Always believe that I like to eat what I kill. I just have the motivation. If I'm not making money in this, I'm looking for the next thing. I'm looking for it's always, I've got to do something to keep myself busy. And, it wasn't just limited to driver training. I mean, I ended up doing 7 seasons on Canada's Worst Driver, seasons 8 through 14. That was a dream. That was totally unexpected. I was the head driving instructor, one of the panelists, the judging panelists on the show as well. That was never, ever planned. That was never even on my radar. And it was such a blessing and such a, I don't know what to call it. It was just such a gas to do. Of course, it's not on anymore. The repeats are, but I've run for politics as a local town councillor in Oakville. Spent the first 50 years of my life in Oakville. Married the girl around the corner, who is on this show with us. I trained her sister how to drive, and that's how the connection sort of started. And my parents died at an early age, so I kind of was out on my own and was into my own business, running my own corporation. And a lot of the things I started out in life, owning businesses and learning about life, was blind and learning firsthand, because I didn't have your traditional parents to go to talk to or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I think
would
that's
I
the
ever,
best way to-
what,
I
would
think
I ever
that's-
change it? No, I mean, because I had wonderful support from my in-law family and from my wife. And it's just been a private investigator.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done the census for Stats Canada for the elections coming up. I've been in a really serious car crash, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point in time. I survived, no one died, but that's a story unto its own. And now my days are spent as a driving therapist, helping people who are first responders who have had traumatic events happen on the job get back to driving. I help people who have amputated limbs drive with adaptive equipment. I help people who have been in serious car crashes and have driving anxiety get back behind the wheel or get back in the car as a passenger. So that is, I don't own the driving schools anymore, haven't for 5 years. After 30 years of owning that, I needed to branch out and, go on to my next step in life.
Ryan, you grew up in a very similar situation to our kids. Because you grew up with parents that were very entrepreneurial, and so you got a foundation from watching them, and you became entrepreneurial because of what you saw your parents do.
It was it's funny because I have a very hard time not being this way. I was really good at my job until I got tired, because I knew that I wanted it happening now, immediately. And the unfortunate thing is, when you're employed, is that it's typically on somebody else's schedule. When you're self-employed, you make what you work for at the end of the day. And if you don't work, you don't make. And that's the life I've always grown up with. And I've seen what hard work can do. At 18 years old, bringing home $2,000 a day, mowing lawns. I've seen, just go out there. The possibilities are endless. So I've always been a really horrible employee, but always extremely anxious and ready to go out there and bruise my knee to figure out the lessons learned that need to be learned. Because I like what Tim said, that, and my parents, I feel like, kind of raised me in a similar way. Well, I wouldn't say, I won't make that comparison, but I will say that my parents were firm believers in, I think they knew I would fail at certain things, but they absolutely did not stop me from doing it whatsoever. It is what it is. And I was smart, because I was so thick-skulled as a young guy anyway. I was going to do what I was going to do. So they let me learn my lesson. I just think it's a personality trait unique to entrepreneurs, that you can't help yourself. You're always going to find something to do by yourself, whether that's 100 different gigs that I've had over my life, or finally finding something and now my own boss. To me, there's no other way to be. I love it.
Yeah, I remember in grade 11 when they were not grade 11, probably grade 13, because that was in the days they still had grade 13 back then.
I remember hearing
they were explaining. I remember being in my first business class, and they were explaining what an entrepreneur was, and I remember having that tingly, chilly feeling, like, oh my God, they're describing me. And I just knew it right from a young age, because I was always like that too, always doing a side hustle. That was before they were called side hustles, but always kind of had a
always
little
something.
Always. And even as a corporate employee now, I don't just go, okay, there's my job. And we'll get into this at some point down the line about our sad little tale of how we ended up splitting from working together on a regular basis, and me being in one path and Tim being in another path. But even though I work a very heavy corporate job, I still always have something going on the side, because I don't believe you should ever put all your eggs in one basket.
Not only that, Nancy, even if you didn't have that mentality of don't put your eggs in one basket, I don't think you could mentally handle doing just one thing. I know for me, I've got notepads all over the place. I've got 1,000 pens. I know that a couple of weeks ago, how many people in the audience right now can honestly say that they use every freaking drop of ink in every pen that they've ever had? And I had one of my pens actually go dry the other day, and it was in the middle of the night, and I didn't know what to do because I've probably written just books and books worth of notes. And it's like, to me, the mind has to stay active with something, is whether it's a side hustle or it's a plan of attack. And the funny thing is, half the time an entrepreneur, you don't do 90% of the stuff you're thinking, but it's just, it's fishing almost, because that 10% of the time you catch that one, and that's the hunt. And I think the audience should know, they probably can already get a vibe of what's going on here. There's probably going to be an entrepreneurial swing when it comes to our opinions on certain things. But again, we are very different in the way that we think about certain things. So trust me, you can't assume anything, especially with the three of us, ladies and gents. But okay, Nancy, just because, again, I'm getting kind of already, my mind's racing on just what's going on right now in the country and stuff. Tim let us know what he did. In his current life, he was on Canada's Worst Driver as a judge. Nancy, let us know what it is kind of that you do, whatever you can tell us about it, because it's so relevant to what we're going to talk about here in a second.
Well, I work for a food distribution company, one of the largest ones in Canada, actually. And I'm one of their directors of sales. So I'm in the sales end of things, and everything that I do to this point has got me to this point. And it all started when, I left. In the last big recession, the last great recession in 2008, I found myself that I needed to have a side hustle. So I went and got a job at a restaurant. And this is what you'll find out about Tim and I. We're willing to do anything. We will do anything to make money if we need to. Yep. We don't ever expect anybody to give us anything for nothing without at least doing. And we're willing to do the yucky jobs. So we found ourselves in a situation in the recession where I needed some money, and just grocery money. So the only thing I could get was a job as a hostess at the only restaurant that was hiring at the time, because it was brand spanking new, which was a Milestones restaurant. And I didn't have any experience in restaurants. So I said I would do anything. So you don't have to have much experience to be a host. So I was a host. They didn't have enough hours for me. I ended up doing host and dishwashing for a little bit. And I quickly, my boss knew, because good workers, if you're a good worker and you're willing to do anything, then good workers get recognized really, really quickly, and they move up. They move up, because good workers are hard to find. So I got running the restaurant, and I said to my then boss, don't you need to know something about this? And he's like, nope, we'll teach you the ropes. And thankfully, I learned some of the most amazing lessons of my life came out of working in a restaurant. And we'll get into that down the line. But it was from there that it parlayed into getting headhunted into the company I'm in now. And you know what? If I'd never done that restaurant side hustle thing, they would never have hired me there, because you have to know something about the food business and the food industry in order to work there. Like, you really do. It doesn't matter how much I know about business. They wouldn't have hired me with just my business knowledge. You needed to have some wherewithal about food. And so anyway, so I'm enjoying myself immensely. I worked through my way through the ranks fairly quickly with that company. I had a sales territory for a bit. And then I became their sales training manager, because, of course, with our training background, that was made logical sense. And now I'm in their healthcare division. And so I'm running the healthcare sales for this company. And honestly, there's so many things I could say about this company, because they're family owned and operated, and they're a huge success story. I love working for a family owned business, because I'm not just a cog in a wheel. So it's kind of like Mary's in that whole piece about, they let me be entrepreneurial. They let me think outside the box. I don't have to be so narrow-minded. And as such, I take great calculated risks because of that. And food is a fascinating subject. There's so much to talk about in the food industry, but it does really lend itself over to what's happening right now as far as let
me just summarize it though for the audience. She's in food distribution, okay? So when we're talking about supply chain, logistics, think about the issues we're dealing with now as a North American people, Americans, Canadians, whatever. I mean, it's worldwide, right? But if you guys are wondering why this is incredibly relevant, Nancy is, I know she wouldn't call herself one, but I think of her as borderline expert on this. And it's just because of her knowledge in the space. She's doing this. She's the one signing the deals. And I won't even go into details, but she's actively doing this literally on a daily basis. Okay. So there's no one better to ask. Tim's obviously got his own side with respect to his businesses. He is very well versed. I'm just starting a business. So again, coming from literally all angles here. Now, I did want to talk, though, Nancy, again, just because top of mind for North Americans, inflation. The reason I say top of mind, I know in Canada, they just did a poll. I don't know about the United States. So according to Bloomberg, I'm just reading it right now, Canadians prefer aggressive rate hikes during this period of highest inflation since 2003. So I just think it's kind of unique. I know in the United States, that's what dropped the market with the news that we just got the other day. I don't want to get too much into that stuff, but obviously rate hikes do have an effect.
Did that article say why Canadians prefer that?
It's just a poll. I have absolutely no idea. They don't go too far into it. Well, Nancy, your confusion is equaling mine right now because I was wondering why new Canadians or Americans, I don't think the housing bubble, actually it was aggressive in the States. I don't know why new home buyers, for instance, are not thinking about the impact of these interest rate hikes when it comes time to renew for their house, especially young millennials who can barely afford their bills now. And yes, this is on Bloomberg for anyone in the audience listening. You can literally look this up, that the people up north, Canadians, prefer rate hikes to stave off this inflation because the lettuce is too much. So let's increase, our mortgage instead. It's a little odd, but I was just curious, Nancy, what are you thinking? Because I know rate hikes are an issue now. We're going to be hitting it fast. We're going to be hitting it hard. Both here in Canada.
It's almost like people aren't really thinking that through because
they never do.
Because the thing is maybe they're thinking in the macro picture of just looking at their home ownership only and going, oh, well, I might be able to get into the market if the market slows down. So they better raise the hike, but they better hike the rates, But everything is becoming more expensive. Like I just went through my first period results with my team today, actually. And there was a little bit of disappointment on my team because when I had the guy that runs my numbers for me, he was looking at only dollar value increase prior to last month. He was only looking at dollar value increase. And if you only look at dollar value increase, it looks like we're outperforming like crazy. I said to him, don't just look at the dollar value. I actually want you to go down and look at how many cases did I ship out compared to last year or the month before. Wow. And when you look at my case numbers are flat. And I said, now show me the percentage difference. So if it says that if I say, for instance, I'm just going to lob this out. Say, for instance, it looked like from sales dollars that I was growing by 15% month over month.
Yep.
My case growth is absolutely flat. It was probably 5%, which means there's a 10% in there, which is being eaten up by inflation. So my team was completely deflated. I go, guys, we can't just look at sales dollars anymore because that's an inaccurate number. Inflation is run rampant.
Very deceptive. That is very deceptive. That ties in. Now, I know that we spoke about this, the trio of us, the other day, but because this is a brand new podcast on our flagship episode, I am going to put it out there and kind of just repeat it because it freaked me out, at least with my knowledge of the trades. With housing prices going up, for instance, it always made me feel like it's just a bubble. This bubble's got to pop. It doesn't make any sense. Though having family in multiple businesses in the trades, pretty much from head to toe on a house, I can tell you right now that the men, not the workers, not the tradesmen, tradeswomen, okay, they are only being played just as the home buyer is being played. The manufacturers of products are the ones making now, they're going to raise the prices to match the current level of housing prices. I know this to be true for insulation. I know this to be true for lumber. You can't buy a 2x4 anymore without selling half your farm. It's absolutely ridiculous. So when these houses increase by 100% in 5 years, which is insane, okay, it's not quite 100%, but let's just have this number. The cost to manufacture cannot also be going up that much just because of our supply chain issues. It makes me think that and then you brought that up, Nancy, about how, the numbers and how creative accounting can make things look fantastic. It just, to me, deception all around right now. And the end loser here is the consumer every day, all day.
Well, if we look at just forget food for a minute, let's talk about the housing thing for a second, because originally when you first mentioned about the insulation and stuff, I was asking a bunch of clarifying questions about, we were talking about we were going down a rabbit hole about, I needed to understand a bit more why that would have happened. But then I got thinking about it further and started thinking, somebody who buys not a new home, so nothing that's new, it's a secondary home. I'm just wondering in my mind how they make money. Because at a certain point, you would think, okay, I'm going to buy this crummy, rundown home that's stuck in the 80s. I want to put a bunch of money into it so that I could increase the value of it. But if you think about how much the costs have increased, I'm not sure that people are going to make the kind of returns on it that they think that they're going to make. There was an old rule of thumb that if you bought and sunk money into a home and put it into your kitchen and your bathroom, that then it would tenfold make you more money. I'm not even sure that's going to be the case anymore.
No, I don't think it is. But isn't this the scary thing now, that nothing you do to your house will change the value of your home? The market decides the value, whether you live in a mansion that's filled with pearls and gold, or whether you live in a total shit shack. The government, or the market, I should say the market is going to dictate the price of that home. I don't think it does have any value. I know from at least my family's experience turning their house into their forever home, it adds nothing. The only increases they see are the community increases. That's it. So what's the point? Okay, and I honestly believe that this is just absolute manipulation on behalf of developers, on behalf of manufacturers, on behalf of distributors, on behalf of whoever has the control to raise the price to match the inflation for the moment, because these prices are never coming back. Inflation's going to go down, but these prices are never coming back. So they're just setting us up. And this is the ultimate excuse. And we're never, ever, ever going to be able to afford a home. I don't know how a young person...
Is it an excuse, or is it a response to what we've just been through and that they've got to recoup on monies lost?
And that was a good point that we were talking about last time, because you actually got me thinking on that. It could be a bit of both. I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I certainly think we can't assume that they're not forward thinking, right? So I know that there is some opportunity taking at the same time, but I also agree with what Nancy just said, that they're absolutely taking this opportunity to not just look forward, but to take back everything we lost. Let's tie this into what started my first channel. To take back everything I lost in 2020, I wanted it back. Right. So I did this as an individual and I got it back, and I have no resources available to me. So imagine a multi-billion-dollar company who wants it, they're going to take it. And if they have the excuse of rising inflation and the media who will just irresponsibly fearmonger 24/7, whether it be the market or just social news, I mean, this is ripe for corporations right now. It's funny how in a country run by liberals, corporations have never been better off. It is extremely hilarious how deceptive certain things can be, because right now people are too caught up in fear that they're forgetting about what's happening around them. They're being taken by every used car salesman in the world right now. and they're just being ridden right to the ground. It's devastating. That's my gut on it.
I think fundamentally the problem with society is that they don't understand the law of supply and demand. That is it. I just don't think they get that, because Tim's got an opinion, because I can see you.
As you're talking here, I'm just wondering if some of this is not psychology for these people who are going out and buying things that they really haven't, as we've said, thought through, nor can afford them, or being taken by the salespeople here and there. The psychology part of that being is that they find a gratitude and accomplishment in getting it because they've always wanted that. They don't stop to think what it's going to take to get that. They don't stop to think about what it's going to look like 5 years down the road. Well, they've been droned into their head. Real estate's the best investment, right?
I mean,
and they got to move. They've got to move out of the GTA, or they got to move out of the big places. Now they got this home that drives them to the car salesman. And it's a sense of accomplishment, because it's like, it doesn't matter what it costs. Look what I've got. I got my own house and I got a car now. The psychology of it. I'm just wondering if psychology of it has something to do with it. I mean, we get desensitized all the time.
Totally agree, Tim, because we're coming out of a time, maybe the only time, well, I certainly know the only time in my history, that the government has funded you across North America for nothing. This has been the ultimate retail therapy splurge that every human being in North America has felt. Okay. We all got free money at one point. Second, I got working again, cut it off. I know people didn't do that, which is horrible. Okay. And it's very bad. You were stealing tax money. That's devastating. But people were collecting money and feeling euphoric. I mean, we were in the worst of times, and the stock market never was higher.
I know.
If people are confused at what's going on, it makes me think that this is the most devastating and most effective psychological attack we've ever been under in my entire life. I mean, maybe even in your entire life, Tim. You saying that goes right into what I like talking about. I know I like that stuff, because this is straight up the biggest attack on our mental well-being we've ever seen, and no one can tell. We're getting bought off. We're getting bought off with a few $100s every couple of weeks, guys. It's
the old, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone in any respect, but it was like, when you give something to someone and say, now I want it back. It's what we used to be called. Well, I'm not going to say it was like a,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yep. And it's like that's what it is. It's like, we need to make people feel good in these times. So let's give them something where it's going to promote them having to feel good about themselves. It gives them pocket money. It doesn't make them feel so doomed and desolate. Just let them go. And, majority of these people that were on the assistance and stuff, they didn't ask questions. They just took the money and run. Well, now watch what's going to happen this year on their tax returns.
If they get one. Yeah, they're not getting one. They're going to look, this is so devastating. I'm not religious or anything like that, but I'm a firm believer in the yin and yang, karma, and all of this kind of stuff. And look, people overspending foolishly is just an equal but opposite reaction to what they were dealing with in their real life, as in distress and despair. So that is literally the yin and yang. I subscribe to that. So if your life is garbage on one side, you will compensate on the other. Simple. And if things are more balanced, then you live a balanced lifestyle, obviously. But it doesn't surprise me at all that people are now more foolish than they have ever been with their hard-earned dollar. And yet to me, it's just, Tim, you struck a chord with me in the psychology one.
I know, but again, it goes back to that whole supply and demand conversation that I think that there's a missing link there, because it's exactly the same as your yin and yang. It's the exact same thing, because what will happen is all of a sudden the reason that we're having high prices for so many things is because there's not enough supply and the demand is really high. but it's going to twist. It's going to turn the other way, because to you, what you guys have just been talking, they've been buying things. There's been like, they don't understand what they're investing in half the time. Like, this is why I said I was so scared of the stock market all last year, because none of any of it was making sense to me. I actually can read a balance sheet. I can read fundamentals, and I'm thinking none of this is making sense. So all of a sudden there's going to be we're going to switch over, and they're going to be able to, they're not going to have enough money to afford things. So that means that then all of a sudden there's going to be houses available on the market, which is going to drive the price of things down, which is going to exasperate people who are going to they're going to go underwater with what they owe on their house versus what their house is worth. Now there's going to be a huge supply of houses and things on the market, which, like, this is this whole thing that's the yin and the yang. And
the big worry though is this, because it's a natural cycle that should happen to correct the market that is not stable right now. But will the government allow that to happen? No, I think it's an invitation for more stimulus, and it's garbage, and it's a turn to socialism.
And you know what's scary is a couple of months ago, I think it was us, we had this conversation and stuff like that. And as you just said, Ryan, is the government going to allow someone's or the mortgages to go down in flames or whatever? And to which someone said, wouldn't it be interesting if they did like they did with Air Canada and took a stake in your house? And that's how they get around it without you having to repay it or to go under. The government now takes a stake in your house, just like they took 6% of Air Canada.
Oh, you know, an easy way around that too, where they wouldn't even have to go through any massive legislation. It would just be very simple. They would simply force municipalities or any jurisdiction to allot part of their municipal property taxes to a new federal levy. And then that would force the municipalities, and the they'd force on the provinces. Provinces would have to force on the municipality. But that's where that little leadership change or that little leadership pull is going to drive people's attention to the wrong people. I think they're totally going to do that. Why wouldn't they do that? I mean, if they already own a stake in your home, like you don't fully own your land, you pay property taxes every year for it. I mean, I know I'm talking a little bit, I know I'm sounding a little bit like libertarian on this, can sound a little bit crazy and nutbag sometimes, but the government already owns such a significant part of our lives and our home. We don't fully own anything here in Canada, nor do they do in the States, but I can see that happening, Tim. Going down the whole rabbit hole, I don't think they're ever, especially if we have the current form of government maintain itself for any period of time. Stimulus is coming back. It's never going to go away. Our debt has never been higher. Same for the United States. Under both administrations, it's not a right or a left thing. It's just devastatingly high. This just seems like a pattern where governments have figured out that they can buy us off and prolong disaster in the economy with just a little bit of election cycle BS. So the next guy, they're pushing the buck off.
Do you know what this pandemic and this shutdown or whatever you want to wrap it as has taught me and in my being in my mid 50s of how naive I've been about the world and how much money really isn't my money, but how hard I work for it.
Do you want to hear something?
And what I get back for it. And it's like, how does anyone ever get ahead?
Tim, let me tell you something that makes me absolutely sick. People work their ass off to make a good living, okay? So tax brackets are commensurate with the amount of money you make. Okay, fine. But if you're a multimillionaire and you have to give up half your income, that's a problem, okay? Now they're initiating a luxury tax on vehicles of 10%. 10 freaking percent. That's double the provincial tax rate in in Alberta. 10% just as a luxury tax on a vehicle. That means if you're buying a vehicle in Ontario over $100,000, add 25%, add 23% to your tax bill plus fees. Okay. So add essentially 30% to your bill. Okay. Absolutely devastating. Now they also put a new, I don't know if they called it a luxury tax, but on homes over $1 million as well, which affects people in my family now. So it's like, why do people that I know work their ass off 15 hours a day? I can't even see my dad. He's working all day long. My mom has a part-time job with me at Scotiabank Place in 2008 because everyone had to do what they could. and they worked their ass off to achieve $1 million or $2 million, $3 million. And now the government wants even more to pay to help subsidize the $300 a week that goes to people who are sitting at home.
The money going out is not equaling the money coming in. There's there's too much outcome and not enough income for the government. And it's as I say to Nancy every once in a while, it's like they're playing a game of Monopoly, and it's like these guys have never, ever, ever run a small business, and at Christmas time looked across the desk and had to lay someone off or be the last one to get paid or to never get paid until all the bills are paid and your obligations are taken care of. And to say, no, we can't afford that. And I'm sorry that I'm going to hurt you, or I may lose the employee. That's the problem, is that I think part of the problem is that we're way too, to coin the term, liberal with our money. And it's all these people who are playing with our money, and we get sick and tired of it, but there's nothing we can do because we don't do anything about it.
Not only that, though, Tim, there needs to be a serious education of young people, early on, to value people who take the risk and spend their time to start a business and hire people. Because these people at $15 an hour who want 17 don't realize that their boss might not have taken a damn paycheck in 3 months just to keep you guys afloat, and you don't even realize it. I know that that's happened on my parents' side. It's happened on my side when I did stuff as a young guy. It made me feel stupid that I'm doing all this work and I don't even make any money. But the guy I hired, he made, you know what I mean? But that's what you have to do sometimes, and nobody appreciates it. Because you know what happens? They'll say, okay, you want 16? I'll give you 16. 3 of you stay, 1 of you is fired. Simple. Because I have to live. So there's no appreciation for the people, that old saying, it's almost like people are losing their common sense. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. It's as simple as that. Do not bite the hand that feeds you. You're lucky to have a job full-time in COVID times. Like, at the end of the day, it blows my mind that entrepreneurs or risk takers aren't appreciated by the general public, because what is the point, guys, of working your ass off to own multiple properties and this and that? What the hell is the point? I know you guys are doing it, but it's like, and now the government just wants more and more and more and more. There's going to be new Airbnb taxes, mark my words.
Yeah. There already is.
No, but they're talking about more aggressive Airbnb taxes. Okay. So it's like, you can't even, how do you succeed when they break your legs if you have talent? If you have talent at something, they'll break your legs because you're better than the person beside you. So you have to be as low as they are. That is, and I'm not saying anything against anybody. Everyone here is welcome on the channel. But that ideology and mentality that this country seems to have adopted is just, I don't know what's happening. But when I was in high school, nobody talked like this. No, it was just after I left school that things started getting a little woke-ish, if you know what I mean, and just aggressively anti-business, anti-money, wants everything for free handed to them. Nancy said at the beginning of the podcast, it's hard to find good workers. It's because so many of these people, they get hired and they're like, well, if you're only going to pay me minimum wage, I'll give you minimum effort. Well, then you're going to get minimum wage forever. Okay. That's the way that works. And it's like, they don't get that though.
But because people go to work and they think that they're going to work for money. That's the problem. They think that they're going to work and they're working for money. Money, what you get paid is only a factor of what that job skill level is worth. The second that you start doing things over and above and people can see that you can help them achieve higher and higher goals, they snatch you up. They put you in other things. They stretch you to see what you can do. And then you can start demanding or asking for what you think you're worth. But like, this is the problem, that it's that supply and demand thing. There's so few people out there that are doing that are willing to do amazing things and do it at nothing. Like,
let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story, because this relates, and I'm so big on this entrepreneur thing. When I was born, 1991, my dad was pumping gas. Okay, my mother wasn't working; she was like 18, just out of high school. It was the 90s. I mean, this was, people had kids younger back then. Anyway, so he had no choice. He worked at a freaking gas pump, and I'm born. Okay, what my dad did, he always had a thing for cars. What my dad did is he said, screw this. I cannot be a father and a gas pumper at the same time. He went to Belle-Île Ford, a Ford dealership, and he said, I am going to work in this goddamn shop for a month full time, and you're not going to pay me a dime. And by the time I'm done that month, if I haven't learned enough, bro, fire me. I'm gone. After that month, I want a good wage, yada, yada, yada. He put in 2 weeks. They hired his ass, done, provided a career, started Rymar business, and then exploded to him of a multi-million-dollar lifestyle. He didn't get there by demanding the gas station attendant pay him a little more so he can invest in Dogecoin or something stupid. You know what I mean? He didn't get there like that. He quit the job and said, this is a make or break moment, and worked for free with no money, guys. That's against the law. But believe it or not, I've even volunteered at jobs in this modern time because that's how you guarantee yourself a job. I've never in my life had a problem getting a job. I could snap my fingers and have a job in 2 days. People are forgetting that you're not entitled to a damn thing. You got to work for it and earn it.
Think about me. I'm just before my 40th birthday. And I found myself in a position where I needed money, and I went in and I said that I would work as a hostess, and I treated that job like it was the job that paid me the same amount of money as I was making before. So I showed up and I acted like it was my restaurant, that I was giving the best service that I could give. I was giving service that would be upwards of what you would give somebody at $100 an hour or $200 an hour. And I showed up and I tried to be my best self. And it was shocking how quickly they moved you through, because people don't do that. They go, oh, they're not really paying me much for this job, so I'm only going to give XYD service. Well, then you're guaranteed to float around and only ever make that. But you go in with the mentality that I'm going to give a $200 an hour service level, and they move you along very, very quickly.
It's funny because when I started realizing as an older guy, I wouldn't call the sales job that I had totally entrepreneurial, but I was only paid if I produced. So it had that kind of mentality. And that was when I started waking up in the morning and said, it's not even worth for me to get up in the morning unless I bring home $500. And I was bringing home 500. Then I was bringing home 700 on a daily, changing my life. And it was like, you have to put in the goddamn work. It is as simple as it. Just the entitlement thing, man.
Well,
now
you have to give more. What I have found is you have to give more in life than upfront. You have to do more upfront in order to reap the rewards on the back end. But the people have it. They think it's the other way around. And Tim and I have done more things in our life than I can tell you. And it used to frustrate Tim, specifically because I would give away so much of my time and my energy and my ideas. I'm a strategist, and I pride myself on being able to look at things different than everybody else and create a really cool strategy. I know that about myself after all these years. And Tim could see it much earlier on. And I used to give people ideas, and I used to give things away all the time, and he would frustrate him. And I said to him, someday down the line, this will come back to me. I'm just not sure how at this point in time. But it used to frustrate Tim that would be the case. But it's just so ingrained in both of us that we show up and give more than we're expected to for the longest periods of time. And maybe we're stupid. I don't know. But
Nancy, no. Nancy, why is the lower class or middle class shrinking? The lower class is growing and the upper class is growing. So middle class is shrinking, and they're either going one way or they're going totally the other way. What's the difference, and why is the gap widening? Okay, well, maybe I'll start with Tim on this one. But to me, the difference is what Nancy's saying. It's the entitlement. It's giving more than what you're putting in the work now to get paid later, kind of thing. Only half the people seem to get it, and those half are moving from the middle class to the upper class and accumulating property and investments. And then when they say the middle class is shrinking, they're not lying. But the problem is half of the middle class doesn't know what's going on, and then they turn low class or whatever the proper term is. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get into it. You guys know what I mean. and then the other ones make a proper decision. I mean, look, your life is a direct result of your goddamn choices. And someone else's life is a result of their choices. Okay? Because if you're talking about, oh, somebody was born rich, 90% of those people lose their money in 2 generations. Okay? So stop. That's not a proper excuse at the end of the day. If a kid's born rich, stop blaming him for it. Okay? But at the end of the day, it really is coming down to a disparity between right decisions and wrong decisions. And it's when we see the shrinkage of the middle class, that's what I think. Tim, what do you think? Like, because I believe the government when they say it's shrinking, the stats just prove it's shrinking, but they don't talk about the fact that half of them are going broke and the other half are actually doing quite well. So what do you think that gap is maybe between the middle class and those who don't make it?
I think there's a lot of questions in that.
There is a lot.
There's a lot of questions in that. There's a lot of questions of, you can say, so what was their moral upbringing? What were the examples set? And I dare say, well, I will say it, that I know growing up, I know that there were families who were, this is what I'm going out to do. I'm going to work 24 hours a day in construction, put my money away, and I'm going to make my own wine. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that's how they had a sense of their own community and stuff like that. The other question you ask yourself is, when did this happen? When did this tide turn? Was it the advent of electronics? Was it the advent of a sway in the actual population and the
I think what I think it was, and I'm making a generalization, and I don't want to because I don't think this applies to all, but it's where there's a lot of talk about it happening was in the generation of the millennials. And I actually don't blame them. I don't blame them. And here's why I don't blame them. For whatever reason, the parents of the early millennials, now we have kids that are millennials, but I think it changed partway through. I think it was the earlier millennials I'm talking about. And here's what I think happened. I think there was a lot of hardship growing up, like as a kid, and Tim and I were kids in the 70s. And, let's just take Christmas, for instance. At Christmas time, I had to wait all year long for new socks and new underwear. I got them on my birthday and I got them at Christmas. And it was like and things like that. But now there's a whole generation that would never understand that, because if you need something, you get it. And for whatever reason, maybe there was parents that grew up like me that thought, I have the ability to give my kids anything and everything that they want, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And the pendulum swung way over to the other side. And we didn't take that approach with our kids. We didn't give them everything they wanted. In fact, we made them earn a lot of what they would get and various things like that. And I think that that's part of the problem is that now they don't have the skill set, or they don't understand what it's like to have to want something so bad that you strive for it.
Well,
and we robbed that whole generation of that, learning that skill of wanting something so desperately that you'd be willing to ride your bike in the snow to earn the money to get it.
See, I don't know if we robbed them as much as they were always doomed, because when I say that because you were never going to not teach kids about technology. You were never going to not expose them to the entire world, but it was that exposure. Like, for instance, when you did grow up, I remember I was in high school when Facebook was invented. So I remember high school life before Facebook and after Facebook. And it separated cliques. It established new groups. It changed the entire social dynamic of the entire environment. I mean, everything changed with Facebook. You knew everything about everyone. And I'm just wondering if with this technology push, because again, back in the day, for instance, you didn't know more than you needed to know about your neighbor. You didn't know how much he made. You didn't know his job title. You
didn't know if they were going on vacation.
You know what?
You didn't know nothing.
And
You've
now,
hit it on
though,
the
you
head.
know
This
everything. You know that your friend is making 4 times as much as you, so you want to quit your job. You know that your other friend looks better because they put filters on instead of taking real pictures, so now you feel sad. Like, social media tells us too much because it makes us only see the positive in everyone else, but makes us also at the same time think about our own failures. It's separating our own mental gap here, forcing the same thing would happen with COVID. It is pushing the good and the bad further and further apart. The good is never attainable because it's not people you even know, and it's all fake light. It's just, to me, when I saw social media change high school, it was, to me, you could tell exactly what was going on. You knew too much. And then,
well, did it make people want to obtain things instantaneously that they would? Right. Like, you think about the Kardashians. I think the Kardashians have done more harm to our society than they've done good. Personally, that's just my opinion, because every chick thinks that she needs to be that. And that
if you agree with Nancy, subscribe to our channel right now, because I agree. The Kardashians are killing us. Hit subscribe. This is our ultimate call out. Call subscribe. Keep going, Nancy.
Well, because and God love them. They're very entrepreneurial, and they figured out a niche. They figured out how to make people covet what they have. And so, but it's this whole ideology, and this is it goes back to what I was saying before with this generation that was showcased that you should live in a mansion. You should all be partying all the time. Let's have a whole pile of kids, but don't ever show you how much work that all those children are, because they're tucked away. They can go, they look cute in their pregnant outfits, and they've got all these things, and I'll have a baby and then I'll just move right along. And they don't show you the underbelly of what's really going on. Well, you're seeing this fake facade of stuff that you think you should have.
I think this is all generational, to be honest with you, because as everyone's talking here, I think about, you know what, I'm the oldest of this trio on here right now, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll tell you something. I am an only child. I did have a half brother that was 25 years older than I was. So really he was never in the house, and it was never that live-in brother relationship I had with him. But I want to tell you something, folks. I bet you, and I poll the audience that's listening to us right now. How many of you ever learned how to clean a house? How many of you ever learned how to clean a toilet at a young age, do the laundry in a wringer washer, hang the laundry, vacuum a house, cook a meal?
What does that have to do with this, babe?
Morals and entitlement. Like, we were made to appreciate what we lived in, and hard work ethic.
Well, Tim, let's just go back to a word that I think millennials have forgotten. Okay. Chores. You used to have to do chores in order to get an allowance. That was kind of the deal forever. And you would be lucky if you had parents that gave you one. I mean, I remember but it didn't, I'd get maybe $10 for 8 hours labor. It was crazy. I mean, they were geniuses, but I mean, they taught me how to start a laundry machine. The fact that Tim even asks that question shows me, and confirms how devastated the millennials are, because I don't know how many people in my age group, I'm 30 years old, who don't know how to use an iron clothing, who don't force it on their girlfriends to start the laundry. I actually think it's because they don't know. And it's like, and there's too many people. For instance, I know how to make my bed hospital style, and it's clean, it's crisp. No, cadets taught me that. I'm just saying, I know how to sew. I sew all the time because my dog destroys stuff. But I'm just saying, people don't know how to do. Tim, people have lost their minds on the simple stuff. People don't know how to do anything.
I think the basics are gone. Now, that just might be the old fart in me saying that. But I don't, where's, I don't know. Such things as, just the respect. I mean, where's the respect for yourself? Where's the respect for the other people? Where's, I really don't know where I'm going with that, other than
is it like, you think that it's like a throwaway society that, that's broken, I'm just going to throw it away?
A disposable society.
It's a disposable society.
Friends are disposable.
Everything is.
Jobs are disposable.
Well, look,
income's disposable.
The word career doesn't even apply anymore, because people are actively promoted to swap out every 3 or 4 years for something else. Now everyone has jobs. Literally, people confuse the word career for job now. They're like, oh, I got a new career. No, you don't. You got a new job. Like, people have forgotten the basics. I can guarantee you right now, try to think of a millennial, outside of your son, or maybe he knows how many millennials, or your daughter, whatever, but how many millennials know how to change a tire in the worst case scenario, or how to even get it from the back of their truck if they have to crawl on their back. People have forgotten the basics. I sold, I don't know how many goddamn cars to people, and I made an effort to show them what the dipstick is. And 90% of people under 30 were like, what's this? And I'm like, oh my God, let's move. Okay. I mean, now they tell you not to drink the battery acid. Back in the day, their friggin' owner's manual would tell you how to fix the car. So times have obviously changed, right? We have to instruct young people not to lie in the middle of the road in the middle of the night now, or not to eat Tide Pods. It's a different world, but people are stupid. And I don't know what's making people stupid. And maybe tying back to social media, they're always trying to one-up one another.
But do you think that with what's just come, like what's possibly coming in the next coming months, which is going to bring us full circle to what we first started talking about, as the expenses go higher and higher and higher and higher for things, and people's wages are not keeping pace with, if you didn't get at least a 6% increase this year, you're not even keeping up with inflation. That's just how it is in this particular year, right? And so, so do you believe then that people will be forced to go and start to learn it again for themselves? I'll give my brother kudos, because my brother, he Googles everything. He YouTubes everything. He had a drain problem and he couldn't figure out, they'd done the drain out, they did everything else. But he won't go and spend the money. He will spend time and watch multiple YouTubes till he thinks he's got it. Then he goes and gets what he needs and he fixes the darn thing himself. He goes, okay, this took a few hours of my time, but I saved myself $300 from getting a plumber in here. Yeah. And then he calls Tim and says, Tim, help me. So we sit on the phone and Tim's walking him through how to fix it. But at the end of the day, do we believe that maybe the tide will turn the other way once people really become under the gun and can't afford things the way where it was just so easy before? Oh, let's just take the car and get an oil change. But that $60 could make a difference between eating and not eating,
Totally do not think that young people are going to start learning how to do physical manual tasks. The amount of people that I've met in my life that even look down on the people in trades makes me sick, considering I know that the tradespeople are making more than double the teachers. Even in Calgary, when I told people I was in the trades and I happened to be selling cars at the time, they're like, whoa, what a step up. I'm like, what? I pretty much made the same. Like, people, I don't think anybody is going to be learning physical tasks. And I just think that people in trades are going to get more and more and more consistent money. Like, there's an insulator who works for my father who makes more than doctors, and I know that for a fact. He's pushing $250 a year. It doesn't make sense. He's that good.
Do you know what? I will tell you something that is a little known fact. Most women find guys that can fix things and work with their hands. They find that highly attractive in a male.
Well, not a lot of alpha males left. I'll be honest. There's a lot of beta in society these days.
I know, but if men only knew how much of a turn on that is, that every time Tim pulls his tool belt out, I just about swoon.
Classic. Tim, what are your thoughts?
I don't bring my tool belt out very often.
All I'm saying, Ryan, I'm giving you a hint for future.
I think
a future hint.
I fix all my own stuff. I'm already good on that front, but nobody else knows how to do anything. Like, sorry, Tim.
I think that by the way the things are potentially going, and poo-pooing this and not doing this and leaving things and taking things for granted, you only open the door for robotics and AI. to one day replace you, and then it's too late to say, oh, I should have, or how come I can't, and why can't I get a job? Like, you be careful how, for people who are not motivated, and Google's a wonderful thing. You can go and Google things and figure it out and learn things, or YouTube, or whatever the case is. We have the technology to educate ourselves on a simple fix in the house or on whatever the case is. It's there. But the moment you start losing it is the moment you start becoming lazy.
But you know what? It goes even deeper. It goes even deeper than that, because here's the thing. When you accomplish something, like my brother, when he fixed his own drain, I could just see him. He got a little, like, there was something about that. He's like, damn it, I didn't know how to do that. And I figured it out and I did it. And he got a little bit of that dopamine hit because he accomplished something he didn't think he could do. I think that there's a big part in all of what we're talking about that then goes back to why we have a society that is undermotivated, because they've never gotten those little tiny dopamine good feeling hits for accomplishing little tasks on a daily basis. Like when I figure something out on Canva, or something minute on a spreadsheet, I actually sit back and I have a moment with myself and go, my God, I figured out how to make the columns add up without having to get my calculator out. I actually got the spreadsheet to figure it out for me. And I feel positive, but I don't think people are getting enough moments in their life where they're feeling like that. So it's leading to this depressive society, which then leads to more people not doing anything. I think it's a cyclical problem.
What the community needs to know about right now that's listening to this, I mean, we're preaching to the choir right now because the three of us are outgoing and we're on that other end of the spectrum. But I think for the people who are, I'll never do that, and are listening right now, they need to understand that it's okay to make a mistake, because that's how you learn.
Yep.
Just it's the old physics. What's in motion stays in motion. What's at rest stays at rest. Do you know how many mistakes? I have made more mistakes than accomplishments in life. And you don't have to go and tell anyone, because if you tell someone, that's when you really feel like a shit. Don't tell anyone you've made a mistake. Just go back and do it again, and you will get it right. It's just do something. Like keep going. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day.
People need to be resourceful as hell and want it. Because Tim was talking about the morals of people. What the hell has eroded people's almost like their hunger? Like, you know,
no, because it goes back to that earlier thing that I said. They didn't learn that skill set of wanting something so bad that they're willing to work for it. They were just handed everything. So that's a skill that
it's
you
weird
develop.
Because this goes into that old book, the hunter-gatherer theory. And I'm wondering if this is just gather society right now. And or just the people in this generation or gathered generation, because I feel like I don't like a hunter would have bloodthirst if you're a lion and you're trying to get your prey. It's not quite, that graphic.
No, but it is
intense. Like
it is. It's an intense feeling. And it's a muscle that you have to develop over time. It's like that whole thing they say that children need to learn how to crawl before they walk. There's a fundamental thing that happens physiology. And so if you've got a child that doesn't crawl first and starts to walk first, they force the child to go back and learn that skill of crawling, because there's some fundamentals there that help with later development in life. So it goes back to that same thing. When we just gave and gave and gave and gave because we wanted our children's life to be easier than our own, we robbed them of the fundamental skill set to build that muscle that says, I will go after something to achieve it at all costs. We robbed them of that. And this is the fallout of what's happened, because we thought we were being kind. And in our kindness, we weren't kind, because now they don't have that set of skills that's going to help them to try to achieve at all costs. It's all about this I have to have all of these things, or I'm not a good representative. That's where the depression comes from. And I'm like, Tim and I got rid of our stuff. Like, stuff doesn't mean anything to him and I. Like, it just doesn't. Like, stuff isn't a thing. But
do you think culture has anything to do with this? Well, and don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen listening, it could be the subculture of social media. It could be you can throw that wallpaper up on any wall. You know what I'm saying? And it could live the definition. And it's I think that there's a lot of things where we're losing touch with the human interaction.
You think we've been locked down for 2 years?
I think it started even before that, Nance. I think it even started before that.
And this being our flagship episode, this was really awesome to do. We can pretty much get on anything. We might have things planned for you guys. That's my dog, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But we might have things planned for you guys. And, knowing us, we're going to get off topic every single time. It's about the conversation and the dialogue going back and forth. Even my dog wants to get in on it with you guys here at the end of the show. But for anyone watching, definitely let us know. Definitely subscribe to us. It's obviously a couple of regular folk out here in the country just doing our thing to make the best out of what we have here. But definitely subscribe. Our conversations are only going to get more intense as we get more used to this platform and talking in this form to you guys here, audio only kind of thing. To finish us off, though, Tim and Nancy, what do you have to say to the crew towards the end here of our first episode?
I think that it's just, I want people to know that while we've got a strong opinion on various topics, we're always open-minded, so that if another opinion comes along, it's always something I call them data points. If a data point comes and it makes a lot of sense to me, I can add it and change it to my narrative, and so I'm always open to listening to all different points of view. And I hope that you will notice that we're all like this. It's not about, we're all have a good opinion, but I think we're flexible enough to recognize that opinion, if there's new information, can be changed.
Totally. And keep in mind, for everyone who's listening, that your opinion can be expressed in the comment section of your podcast hosts or on YouTube. Okay. So definitely check out where you can find us on YouTube. I mentioned our channel name at the beginning of the show. You're going to find links all over the place, guys. No excuse not to. When we start getting more used to this platform, like I said, we're kind of more used to face with people. And this is the first time we're doing a podcast, but this is also the first time I think we're going to go into really deep opinions about stuff based on our own upbringings, where we're coming from, and just we're going to do what we can't necessarily do on the other stuff. So this to me is exciting, guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe to us for sure. Get on that list. Join us over on YouTube. Tim, what do you have to say to the crew on the end of our first episode?
Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And, we have a wide sort of range of what we talk about. We have a wide range of opinions. Being on the panel for Canada's Worst Driver, I was always asked as an opinion because, it was part of what I did as a judge. And as Nancy said, you give me a fairly good argument and persuade me or give me something to think about that could change my answer, I consider it. But I can be pig-headed at the same time, and I can go off on tangents at the same time. So,
yep.
That's who I am. I'm kind of the old fart in the crowd.
Well, look, we all come from, like I said, different areas in life. There's 2 males here, 1 female, 2 different generations, 2 different parts of the country, different political views, different areas with financially. We couldn't be more different from each other, and we get along so well. Again, that's what makes this conversation so good, is that we can actually have it naturally. None of this is faked. This is literally the kind of stuff that we talk about to ourselves when we're not recorded. So we figured, let's just start talking to people because this is interesting. And a lot of the reason why we're doing this too is because we want to hear your comments and feedback as well. So again, whether it be here through your podcast source or on YouTube, doesn't matter where you're watching us, let us know your feedback. You might be giving us information, like Tim and Nancy just said, that opens our eyes to something new. It can start a new conversation. It might even drive an episode. So let us know in the comments, and every bit of feedback you give us can help. I had a really wicked time.
It was good.
Me too.
It was a good flagship to start with. And, it's going to evolve. We're going to grow into this just like we did in our other ventures. And, don't think it's so boring, folks, that you're not going to tune in again. You're going to be missing out. That's going to be a mistake not to tune into our next episode. I have no idea what the next episode is, but you know what? We're here to have fun and to create some dialogue and to create some controversy. and to create some common sense.
Yeah, and keep this in mind if you're listening. I'm going to say stuff that's going to make you guys so pissed off sometimes. I'm doing it to drive your opinion. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. But like any good TV show, ladies and gents, it takes an episode or two, maybe 3, before you start realizing who we are, because it's more about when you start realizing our personality quirks and where we're coming from, what we have to offer, the conversation takes an entirely different turn, which is, again, why me and Nancy and Tim have such an easy time talking. We've obviously evolved through that, but you guys will as well as you get to know us more. I had a great time. Tim just said he's rocking and rolling. Nancy's celebrating. Let's end it here, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely tune in on episode number, I guess, 2. Because this one's 1.5. So I guess join us on episode 2. Join us on episode 2, and we will have an incredible conversation. Lots going on every single day. Have a great day, folks.